Hello, Jan.
Hi, Bernard.
It's very nice to be able to talk with you about your experience as Vice President of the EPF for 4 years now, since 2020. There are two vice presidencies. We talked already with Joanne Picard about her function as Vice President for the small conferences. You were Vice President for the main conferences. And I would like to hear from you about what your task was and what you learned from it. What was it like to do that work?
Yes, right. Well, we had the election. You've probably talked about that already in 2019.
Yes.
In Madrid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was due to start in 2020, and that conference was going to be held in Vienna on the theme of realities. And I didn't have a lot to do because Herbert had already organized that. That's the way the coordination goes from one executive to the next. So here we are, March the 18th. 4 years ago, March the 18th was when there was a lockdown in London, and I moved out to the country for a year and a half.
Yes.
It's incredible that that happened only 4 years ago.
The conference was planned to be about realities, and realities intruded massively.
Absolutely. It was so coincidental, and something else coincidental happened after that. That's been kind of the nature of this executive. So we had to have a joint meeting, and it was decided, Jorge Canestri decided that we would have to cancel because it was too dangerous. And in any case, all our countries were being locked down. I think that was before March the 18th. And so what we decided, in fact, was that when it was clear that we had to cancel the conference in Vienna, at the same time, we agreed to postpone the program because there was a massive amount of work that Herbert had done. So during lockdown and online, we had a series of conversations and organization with the program committee. And what we came up with was that we would invite everyone to do a streamlined conference online the next year, so that that conference and the program would not be wasted. So that's what we did in 2021. Now, I was telling you last night, for me, I have to admit, although everything was really difficult concerning lockdown, it meant that I didn't actually have to prepare a conference for another year. So for the 2022 conference. So it was an enormous relief because it's so complex. And although when I was very honored to be invited by Herbert to take on this role, I had no idea how much it was really. I mean, you say yes and then you find out what it's like. At the same time, it's an enormous honor, and it's also very, very interesting to be thinking about different themes and meeting different people from all over. And the creativity, as you see from this conference this year, I think is expanding and enormous, and it's very invigorating too. So I think it was the following year, in 22, that we had the conference on ideals after realities. And then the first one that I really organized with the theme was the one in France that was set to be in Nice in 2023. And I really wanted to do it on illusions, and because there's such a different idea of illusions in psychoanalysis, Freudian illusions and Winnicottian illusions and the illusory world. So, and then you've probably had this already from Herbert. We had this extraordinary situation with the venue in Nice,
Yes,
which was demolished.
Herbert and Andrea have told me
Talked
about
about
it. I
it.
mean, this
Talk about illusions.
crazy situation.
Yes. And so our new PCO found Cannes, the film centre.
Yeah.
And all of us were saying it's impossible. But in the end, we did it, and we had the red carpet, and you know what happened. And it was great fun, and that was quite successful. But everybody thought we'd done the theme of illusions for that venue, and it was totally coincidental. And as you know, and lots of people know, that we always go to a city of a European society. And so then in discussion, it was Italy's turn. And we'd been to Rome some years back, and Florence came up. And of course, Andrea Gardini, who lives nearby, it just seemed something that everybody was enthusiastic about.
And you've had a huge success,
And
huge
here we
turnout.
are. Oh, extraordinary.
1,000, how many inscriptions?
We've now got up to 1,200.
12.
And we've got an overflow place because the auditorium is not big enough. And there was big concern that we're going to get too squashed in all the panels. But I think we've got an extraordinary amount of panels, the most panels we've ever had, I think. And we haven't intended that. It's evolved. And people have submitted their work. And I've invited the program committee, I was chair obviously, invited well-known authors on top of the plenaries, the 4 speakers for the plenaries. And I think it's very rich when you look at the program. And working groups from the EPF have a prerogative. So if they submit, we have to accept them, and we want to hear their work. So we've had a record number of submissions on the theme of identifications, which seem to follow very naturally on from illusions. And so there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Of course, during this time, we also had the changeover of PCO from Gay Baroche to CSI, and they have found that, you know, a lot of stuff to learn. And so they and me were learning together. I was very fortunate because Herbert was very au fait with everything. And so every time I got a bit lost, I could ask him. He was still on the executive. And overall, we're here. We've survived. I think I've survived too.
What is the process like with the program committee, finding the conference theme and then thinking about who to invite, writing an argument for the conference that attracts people? How does that go?
It really comes from the executive. The think tank of EPF is the executive.
Is the executive.
Of course, yes. And so I work very closely with Herbert, and I would think of a theme and he would think of a theme, and we'd discuss it together. I did the writing of the argument, but then he would look at it, and then we would work out references. But when I hand over to Udo Hock, already we're looking at themes and the argument, but I will let Udo do the argument, but we'll be working very closely together. Then each vice president has a program committee of 6 people, and we have meetings with them, and we say, this is the argument, this is the theme, who do you know who might wish to speak about that? So then we gather together a list of names, and we have to do it pretty early because we've only got a year.
Yes.
So if you're going to give a plenary paper, you need a year's notice at least.
Yes. Yeah.
But you know, nobody has ever said no to an invitation.
Really?
No, never. People love coming to EPF conferences because there's a sort of sense of freedom. And that's going to be our next theme. Interesting.
Freedom.
Yes. Yeah. So it's evolved, and I'm delighted that we're going to have such a rich conference this year. Yeah.
What have you learned personally from doing this work? Have you learned anything? What has it been
Well,
like?
the first word that comes to mind is diplomacy. Yes. It's very challenging to be away from your own society where most people think more or less the same, and you know your culture. You're in a different culture because the culture with the executive, for example, everyone's from a different analytic culture, which I love. And I've been part of the EPF on the working groups for a long time already anyway. So this is something, it's not just the art of diplomacy. It's much more about thinking analytically and listening to something that you might not agree with, that you may actively disagree with, and then finding a way to disagree with that. Have a dialogue. This is what, as you know, I'm very interested in. And this is what every speaker I've talked to, when I've said, choose a discussant, but choose a discussant that you can have a good dialogue with, not someone who's just going to say, oh, I agree with everything you say. It's not analytic. So I've learned a lot about different versions of psychoanalysis and different ways of thinking psychoanalysis.
And as you say, finding ways to have a psychoanalytic dialogue, to really think psychoanalytically about the differences, different ways of understanding psychoanalysis and the psychoanalytic practice as well.
Yes, because every time we've thought of a theme, although we've wanted to bring in the interdisciplinary, really our main aim is to have a meta-psychology. So, for example, the theme of freedom, it's not a political discussion. It's much more about free association and how that one word, can evoke a series of associations to Freudian thought and Freudian metapsychology. And from that, we build the argument and we bring in key players who who have discussed that. Obviously, Freud's Why War, Winnicott wrote about democracy and freedom of thought, and many other authors. So this is how the argument will go.
There are the internal conditions for freedom in each person, and also the external conditions that we need to allow individuals to grow and develop their freedom.
Can you have psychoanalysis in a country where there is not a democracy?
That's a big question.
It's a big question, isn't it? For example, a controversial discussion. Yeah.
So this dialogue, you were involved in it already through the working parties. You were very involved in the working party on specificity.
Yes.
For a long time.
Yeah.
How long? 13 years?
13 years, I
13
think.
years?
12, 13 years. Yeah.
13 years?
Yeah.
So your involvement in the EPF began in that way, I know about, maybe in other ways. How did you become involved in the EPF?
Oh, it was initially through IPSO, decades ago.
Yes.
And then coming to the conferences and feeling invigorated, but energized by, and meeting other people. And then I was invited by Evelyn Sechou when she set up Specificity and worked with Leo Becke and Serge Frisch, and absolutely loved it. And then was one of the moderators during the pre-conferences, chaired and then gave papers and panels for different conferences. And it's very enriching.
The pre-conferences are an important part of the conferences, aren't they? It's where people meet in smaller groups and really work together. We talked about the Joel's job of managing the small conferences, the newly qualified analyst conference, the newly qualified training analyst conference, the forum on education, and now the candidates seminar, which were also all places where people really get to work together in small groups.
Yes.
So that's one way the EPF creates bonds, and the other way to create really close personal bonds is through the pre-conference activities where people get together. It has been very important, and I imagine you share that.
And you've made a huge contribution, Bernard, haven't you, with your initiating psychoanalysis workshop, the working party that you were part of. You know, this is one of the things that we need to address now, because we've got ad hoc groups and forums, but we don't have a working party at the moment. We've had many successful working parties, as you know, and publications, but we haven't at the moment got a working party. So I think the next executive needs to address this. But the success of the working groups of the EPF is that they are pretty autonomous, and their work, the fruits of their work, come to the annual conferences in a panel.
Yes. It's brought back to the membership through the panels, through the public presentation.
Yes. One of my ideas for the future is that we will perhaps publish more, because we could have online publications. And that would be, I think, another way of disseminating the work that I think is invaluable.
Well, we're talking about the future, Jan, and the future is your new role. You've been elected as president-elect of the EPF, and you are going to take over your functions now
on Sunday.
As the new president of the EPF. So that's a new challenge. What led you to take on that challenge?
Do you know, it's evolved. It's really just evolved. I didn't realize how engaged and committed I feel to international psychoanalysis. I think one can get very parochial staying in the same society, as much as I love my own society, of course. I love being out there in the world, and I've learned so much from being in Europe and getting to know European societies. And the EPF, as I said earlier, people love to come to EPF because there is a sense of freedom that you get from meeting others. And when the opportunity came up, I thought about it very carefully, because it is an enormous commitment, but I couldn't resist it, actually. And I've got some ideas, and I think I got a team together, and we went for it last year at the election. It was not such an easy process, in as much as one had to really focus on what you wanted to do. But we were fortunate enough to be elected, and now we've got to get on with it from Sunday onwards.
Yes, and you will be the fifth woman president of the EPF.
And the 15th president.
And 15th, so 5 out of 15.
5 is a good number, you see, for the British, because we have to have 5 times weekly analysis. So I'm rather pleased about that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's also, it's extremely important to have a woman president. Again, your predecessors were...
Anne-Marie Sandler.
She was the first woman.
She was the first woman
EPF,
in 1987.
Yeah.
And then it was
Groen Pakken from the Netherlands.
Yes. And then she was followed by Tertio Eskelinen.
Right.
So there were 3 women in a row.
Yes.
Until the 90s, the early
3
90s.
in a row.
Yeah. And then Alain Gibault.
Yeah.
Then David Tuckett. And then Evelyne Sechot.
Evelyne Sechot, right. She was the fourth.
She was the fourth.
The fourth. And then again, a succession of men. So, and finally again, a woman president, which is going to be very good. in a profession which is now predominantly a feminine profession, I think.
It's quite interesting how the last 3 executives have had 2 men and 4 women. And my executive also 4 women and 2 men. Yeah.
So Evelyn Sechot was the 4th woman president.
Yes.
And then after Evelyn, we again had a series of men.
Yeah. Peter Wegner.
Yeah, Peter
from
Wegner.
Germany.
Yeah.
He was followed by Serge Frisch.
Serge Frisch from Belgium.
Yes.
From Luxembourg in Belgium.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was followed by Roque Canestri.
Yes.
And then Heribert.
And then Heribert.
The team that I joined. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
4 men again.
Yes.
And now finally another woman president.
Another woman, yeah. So we're going to have another 4 women? I don't know. We'll have to see.
You have to see.
And what difference does it really make? Well, we will have to see.
Well, I think it makes a difference in the sense that psychoanalysis is now a predominantly feminine profession. I mean, there must be more women practicing psychoanalysis today than men. So it is, according to me, very important that we have women presidents,
yes.
as well as men
of course.
as presidents. Yeah.
Because it is quite interesting in psychoanalysis, like all politics, the more positions of power there are, more men.
Yes.
I noticed that sort of decades ago. It was so interesting, but it's so obvious as well. Yes, I think it's something to be researched probably and thought about. But
thought about, understood why that tends to be that way everywhere, even in psychoanalysis.
Or especially in psychoanalysis.
Maybe
we've only just had the 2nd female IPA president.
That's true.
After 100 years.
After 100 years, absolutely. It's very impressive, isn't it? Yeah. What are your plans for the future?
Well,
what would you like to do?
Our main plans are continuity and consolidation. That was the sort of platform that I stood on, really, because I really do think that the build-up of the structures of EPF over the decades of EPF are pretty solid. The Constitution and the Council, decision-making, it all goes very well. I think we could do with more transparency. There are layers where you talk to various presidents and they don't know about the details, like of the working groups, for example. So I think we've got some areas to address. As I said, we'd like to get some working parties. Mm-hmm. I think we could do some webinars. The webinars were very successful during lockdown. And then we stopped doing them because we had the small conferences, but we could do more of those. And I think we do want to expand more psychoanalytic activities. It's whether we get the people power to do all that, but people are keen to be part of this. So, and I've got a great team, and I think all of them are bringing in new ideas for the bulletin, for the annual conferences, for the educational conferences. And I think there's a lot to develop as well.
Yeah. Webinars, why not? But without giving up on the quality of the in-person meetings.
Not instead of.
Not instead of.
No. Yes. Definitely not. But again, for dissemination. Yeah. Because people do like webinars. And I think the IPA webinars are very, very good. But I think EPF webinars, for example, one idea is that our working groups could do some webinars on the panels that they've already done in various conferences, because often that work goes into the archive or into a bulletin, but it gathers dust. And I think it would be great if we could revise some of those panels into a new webinar. So that's one idea that we have.
Yeah, I can see that.
Amongst many others,
Yeah. Maybe also for as an outreach activity. There's also EPCUS, a university.
Yes, EPCUS does really well. Yes,
which is very successful. So there may also be a way to open up to other audiences.
Yes, I think so. I think outreach is a good idea. Thank you, Bernard. Maybe we'll call it outreach. Yes.
Well, and I have, of course. Well, you mentioned the fact that we've both been involved in working parties, and I, of course, have a personal interest in the pursuit of that activity. You were talking about the fact that there are no working parties, true working parties, active now. There are ad hoc groups and forums.
Yeah.
But the structure of working parties where people really have a mission, at the time, these were missions set by the executive. The executive told people, listen, there's a scientific problem that we need you to work on.
Yes.
And it was really stimulating for people to work on that,
yes.
To have questions put to them that they had to work on, and they were required to publish as part of the contract.
Yes.
Since there was funding from the EPS for this work,
yes.
but you had to produce, to give something back, scientific
Absolutely.
back to the membership.
Yes.
Are there plans? How do you see the possibility of promoting that kind of scientific?
Yes. Well,
activity?
the working group that I have been discussing with colleagues at the moment is the one on sexuality,
yes.
which I really, the IPA have got their own committee working on the research of that. And I think we need one in EPF. And it would certainly be a committee I would like to be part of. I can't chair it, but even in my role as president, I could be a participant. And that would be something I would choose to do. So we are looking for a chair. And as you know, the process is that you get 6 people from different European countries.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to have an argument, and then they've got to present the wish to be an ad hoc group then to the council. It gets discussed, and hopefully people accept it. And then over a couple of years, it can become a forum. And then in time, maybe 4 to 5 years, it could become a working group, a working party.
Working party,
yeah.
And so they would organize workshops on these themes at the pre-conferences.
They can do that as an ad hoc group.
Yeah.
They can do that already.
Yes,
as
of
an
course.
ad hoc group.
Of course.
Yeah.
As a way, but the hope is then that the real scientific process will get going with outcome, with publication.
Exactly. That will be. And the whole question of research, of course, as you know, is a big issue. What constitutes psychoanalytic research?
Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
It is a big topic, but there are psychoanalytic ways of exploring psychoanalytic issues, that are not like biomedical research, that can be really worthwhile.
Yes. Yeah.
And, Any other topics that you would see being investigated? Sexuality is one clearly contemporary important topic.
Yes. I think prejudice and migration. We've already got a group looking at this. And this is what is happening in the world at the moment needs more research. We need groups of people thinking about it, discrimination, disability. There's a whole range of issues that we could think about, but it has to be evolved from a particular group. And normally that needs a couple of people who are energetic about that. Yeah.
And then there's violence. I mean, if there's one contemporary theme that you and your present executive have had to live with is next to the pandemic is violence. Violence in Europe, again, violence in the Middle East, again, terrible violence. War. Yeah. So that's
and
also...
how to keep thinking.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
With these polarizations that occur.
Yeah.
And whilst we are obviously terribly upset about what is happening in the world and in Europe at the moment, we're not a political organization. But one of the things we are working on at the moment is a humanitarian statement that we feel would be the way in which we, as a psychoanalytic organization, we are not silent, but we are not making a political statement, but a humanitarian statement. And this is
Can you say a few words about what you would want to say in that humanitarian statement?
It's about the analytic understanding of suffering and how to understand violence and how to research the kind of prejudice that we are seeing all over the world, not just in Europe.
Yes. How to understand trauma and its repercussions.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's one last question that I would like to ask you now, before we end, is you were saying how difficult it is to keep thinking, to be able to maintain thought in circumstances of war, in circumstances of polarization, of terrible conflict. Would you be willing to say something about it, what it was like for you and the executive you've been working on?
I think, as we know as analysts, what you have to do is create a space in which to think. So this is, I think, what the EPF has become, a space in all the conferences and activities that we offer. I think especially when people come together in a different country in Europe, they get to know different analysts from different cultures. And there's a space for thinking about very difficult things, just as there's a space in an analytic session when you're working with a patient. Space and continuity of that space.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, it's very...
And finding ways to work with each other so as to keep that space open together.
Yes, not jumping to conclusions and othering each other.
Each other's viewpoints. And,
Exactly, yes. Prejudices inside ourselves, the totalitarian mindset and the democratic mindset, for me, psychoanalysis and psychoanalytic treatment is about evolving a democratic mindset. And this will be one of our symposiums for the 60th celebration in 2026. It will be 60 years since EPF was inaugurated. So we're planning a symposium on democracy.
On democracy and the democratic mindset.
Yeah.
Well, that is a huge topic.
Just a little idea.
So let's not try to elaborate completely on that one now. It will take...
It's just a seed of an idea. Yes,
a space to develop that idea.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Jan. Is there anything you would like to add? Is there an important question that I've forgotten to ask you?
There's so much more, isn't there, Bernard? But it's been great to speak to you, and thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure for me. Thank you very much for your answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.